Okay, I'm back. If you saw my first video, you know that I am interested in printing or designing and 3D printing a watch. So let's get on with that since my poll hasn't happened. So 3D printing might seem like a bother, but it doesn't have to be. There are services like, for instance, Shapeways and iMaterialize that will do all that for you. The critical part, though, is to understand the process of 3D printing. You need to check what they can and can't print, and then make sure you are fully aware of that before you get into even the very first stages of printing. So, for instance, here we have on these sites their specifications, minimum detail, accuracy. Now, it'll depend on the type of material you pick as well. If you want to print in titanium with this company, you have certain limitations. Even the way it can be printed, the type of overhanging structures, the enclosed areas, whether you can have interlinking parts, these all depend on the service that you pick. Here's Shapeways, for example, and this is for aluminium, I believe. Let me just click on here. Steel. And so here we can see a minimum supported wall thickness of 1 millimeter and unsupported wall thickness of 1 millimeter too. Okay. Minimum embossed detail 1 millimeter, minimum engraved detail 1 millimeter. So we need to know all those type of things. It'll be useful when you learn or start to learn about 3D printing to understand the process some of these printers use. For instance, many of these metal printers use a powder which is spread out on the surface and then sintered together using a high energy laser. That then creates limitations that you can't enclose the whole area of the model because it'll end up being full of powdered metal. So you have to have an opening for that metal to come out of later on. It also means that some surfaces can be supported and others can't. The underside surface, for instance, of an overhanging structure will have a different texture on it because it is sintered on top of a bed of powder, whereas the top layer where the sintering stops will have a different finish. Anyway, once you understand all that, the process is easy. You can go ahead and design what you like according to those rules, and then upload the file, and they print it and send it back to you, all done. All the bother of actually setting up a printer and making sure the print comes out just right, that's all their job. You don't have to worry about that. Okay, with all of that understood, I'm hoping that this information will just seep into my brain and I can get on with designing a watch case and just not overstep some of these boundaries. So when I'm designing, I don't want to start with any particular design of a previous watch in mind, but I have created a Pinterest board here of watches that I tend to like. Now, this is really not to actually guide a specific design. This is just to find out what I like. This is to learn more about the sort of watches I would like to own. And I can see here there are certain styles coming through, and I can also see certain styles which are not here. And so it might even be the ones which are not here are just as important as the ones which are here. So what can I learn from this? Well, I can see I obviously like dive watches and sort of tool watches, either for aviation or racing. There's lots of chronographs on there and dive watches. They do have a bit of a style going through with the domed crystal, and a few of these have sort of slightly squared off edges. But I'm not going to lean on this for actual design. I just want to have this in my mind for knowing what type of things I enjoy and the essence that I'm going for, but not the detail. When I actually sit down to start drawing something, I don't want to actually have these in my mind. I would prefer to put them all out of my mind. Now, another part of this whole process that I find interesting looking at these, and there are some other types of watches that I probably don't mind, but they're not here. And those are the very simple, flat, stylish designs. The reason why I've not included them, and I think I almost did this subconsciously, is when I 3D print a watch case, like for instance this is a little watch case here, hopefully that focuses on that. I want to design something which makes the best use of 3D printing technology. I don't see the point of using 3D printing technology to simply design something which can be manufactured using a normal method. So all of those simple flat watch case designs, I'm just going to try and avoid those, or at least put a twist on them that means that 3D printing technology has a presence in the final product. So with that in mind, I have now a few requirements for what I'm going to design. First, it needs to be printable, so I can't skip outside of these boundaries. Whatever material I pick, or maybe I might pick the most coarse material and I know all the other ones will match that, so I can't go outside these boundaries. I also want to make sure I design a watch that makes use of, like a showcase of 3D printing technology, so not too simple. And finally, it should be a design which I actually like, because I don't see the point of designing something you don't like. I think that's the artistic side coming into it, that if you were just designing things and you didn't care what it looked like, then that's like just designing something utilitarian that has no sort of interest from me. But if it's something that you want to enjoy, and watches are very much like that, then you really can't stop designing it until it is something that you do like. Either you like it because it looks great or it has a nice feel to it. Yeah, so those are the three things. Okay, let's get on with the actual process. So these are the designs I've worked on so far. Quickly, I'll just mention two things. One, sorry about all the background sounds, if you can hear them. It's sort of noisy here today. And two, this app, Sketchbook, it's sort of okay, except it crashes. Hopefully it doesn't crash. So here are a bunch of designs that I've done exploring the way to connect two halves of a watch together. I've explored ways which involve cutting the watch sort of straight through the middle as you look at it, the left-hand side from the right-hand side, maybe cutting through the 12 to 6 position or the 3 to 9 position. Or I've looked at other methods which cut through the watch in a more traditional way. So you have the face of the watch, and then you have the body, and then you have the back. But since I've decided to try and build this without using any tools, and to make it easy to be able to print it, that's the reason why, is because 3D printing, I don't want to have to muck around with creating threads, which is going to be hard. I have to come up with lots of designs that join two halves of the watch together in new ways. Let's visit a few of these designs now. I think early on, and I don't mind this design, I had this idea here of having pins that go through with the little slots in them, where another little piece of metal then slides through the slot and locks the pin in position. With a handy hole there, so then when you take that out again, you can without needing to use a pair of pliers. And so here is what they would look like on the watch face. These little pin situations happening all around the perimeter. That's possible. It seems very fiddly. It could be attractive though. I had a few sort of dead-end failed ideas, like this thing here, which were little tabs around the outside of the watch. So these would be around the outside of the face. And then on the other half of the watch would be these arms that would come down and be slightly spring-loaded. So each of these would slide over and then lock into the little buttons coming out. I don't know, that doesn't really appeal to me that much, that design. Here's another version. This design uses, so this is a watch cut in half, either top to bottom or side to side, and it has a retaining ring that locks around the top, and then another one around the bottom, that little guy down there. And this retaining ring could either snap on, so have a design which allows it to just flex a little bit and be forced on to the top of the watch, or another option is to have these interlocking teeth on the ring, which can be big and broad, allowing the ring to be slotted in, pushed down, and then turned a certain degrees, maybe 15 degrees. That would lock that ring in place, and the same would be done for the lower underside ring. This design also features a glass back. Obviously they're going to have a glass front. This one has a glass back as well. So the metallic printed part is each half of the watch, including the watch face, but not the back and not the front. And then there'll be a ring, a top ring and a bottom ring. These are my metal lace designs, metal wire lacing. So this is where the watch is cut across horizontally. So the front of the watch is the top, the back of the watch is here. And we have a core section of the watch in the middle, where you're using copper wire or maybe stainless steel wire around little teeth or some sort of hooks. And then it's a matter of how is the wire finished off. Zoom in down here, this is a design where there's a single lace going around the outside of the watch, or around the edge. And then the end of the wire is slotted into a little groove and pushed into that groove along this path, so that once it's pushed in there, there's a fair bit of friction on it and it will not come loose. But yes, to do it you need to use copper tweezers or something to pull the copper around, I guess pliers, and lace the watch together like that with copper, which would be interesting, but a bit fussy, a bit slow to work on. I'm not sure if it's ideal, but it would definitely be a unique design. Next up we have, this is probably my last design option that I sort of favouring at the moment, which is a sort of clasp design where the body of the watch on each side, this part of the watch just here, the two halves being kept together with some specially designed little clasp which gets pushed in with a pair of pliers very delicately to join the two halves together. When I started thinking about this, I came across a problem which I will attempt to switch to. It's got to do with the crown and pin and how they work into a movement. If this is joined at the bottom of the watch, then the crown and pin needs to slide through a hole on the edge of the watch where there's no join. And so that hole means I need to remove the crown from the pin and crown from the movement, from the watch mechanics. That means difficulty. It means that you need to have access to a part of the watch movement in order to do this. It means I can't have anything in the way, which excludes some of these designs straight away. Here's what I mean. This is the movement that I'm planning on using, or one very similar to it. And if you focus in on this little guy here, this is the little button you have to push in using a tiny screwdriver in order to release the pin and the crown from the watch body. And you need to do that in order to then put the movement into the watch case and then reconnect the pin and crown once it's in place. Now with this particular movement and some other ones, you have to be careful. You can stuff this up. It's not necessarily a user-friendly thing. If this was going to be done by just any old person, you could easily get it wrong. Even for myself, I need to be very careful doing this. It makes me want to design something, or makes any designs where I don't need to remove the crown and pin, makes them a bit more attractive. So here's a design where the crown and pin don't get removed. Instead of having the watch cut top and bottom, we cut it on the side here and on the side there, and have this sort of clasp design accommodates a hole where the pin will go through. So when the watch is put together, you rest the movement in one half of the body, which would be, say, the lower half, and you have the align the pin so it's just snugly sitting in half of this hole, and then you bring the top half over and it sits to the other side of this hole, and then the clasp goes in over the top and locks it all together in that position, creating the final part. And that way you can have it done without needing to take the watch apart at all, except this is complex. It also means that the watch is slightly stressed from the band here where the watch is connected to its band and to here, and these little clasps take that force. The only thing keeping the two halves of the watch together is a clasp on one side and a clasp on the other, so this has to be quite a strong thing. It might have to be made bigger than this too to make it work. But in any case, it's an interesting idea. It could be big enough, it could be strong enough, and it might solve the problem. And I also like that it's pretty simple in that there's only 4 pieces and 2 of them are tiny. So we have the bottom half of the watch, top half of the watch, and one clasp on this side and another clasp on that side, and that is that. I don't mind that. Around here you can see some other design ideas I've had. Let me know if you like any of those. Tell me what you think. Just to let you know too that this pin and crown design can be solved other ways by having watches which connect, are joined up like this, because this design you can easily accommodate a little groove for the crown and that to go into. So these designs don't have this issue. So this is where I'm up to, the current design. I should add that I since watched a few more videos about putting movements into cases, and it has occurred to me, and I have a hunch this might be the case, I need to remove the stem and cut the stem shorter. In any case, the stem's going to come probably too long, and so I'll definitely need to take the stem out and cut it. So there goes the plans of trying to avoid doing that. It's actually not a big deal. When you see a bunch of people do it, it's not so hard. So next thing will be to buy the movement. I really do need that in order to move forward. Yeah, so I'll buy that. Maybe the crystal as well, the front and back glass, and a few other things. Yeah, and so I guess that wraps it up. Sorry, today there's no OK Miles Google thing.
But Miles, I told you I have some important information.
Yeah, she's just not working today.
Hey, I'm working just fine.
The internet's not working either, so
Hey, I just so have a connection. See.
Hey,
cat videos.
Stop it. What are you doing?
I told you I'm very powerful.
Ugh.
No, but it's very important information.
No, it's not. No one really wants to hear about it.
Yeah, actually, why do you do these at the end of the videos? No one is watching anyway.
I sort of like that no one's watching.
Doesn't that defeat the point?
I don't know. Does it really matter if someone watches? I mean, I just did this for fun. I sort of like that.